good and bad penalties at the top of the list. And the question is going to be, is this who this team is? Or was this the product of a weird day? But it was every kind of penalty. It was receiver false starts. It was right guard false start. It was offsides on an interior defensive lineman. How many times do you see that call over the course of a Sunday? It was multiple late hits, even though I thought the first one on Greenlaw, when he's kind of going down and Lance slides in a spot that you don't expect a receiver to slide, a quarterback to slide. He didn't really hit him. He fell on him. I understand why it's a penalty. I don't kill Greenlaw for that one. The Azeez Al-Shire one was bad. The Greenlaw face mask, I couldn't quite tell. But
you just listed 3 15-yard penalties.
Yeah,
That's just 45 yards. To me, it's one thing. You had 12, they had 3. To have 3 15-yard unsportsmanlike, the max you can get. The Niners had the market cornered last year on a team that won 10 games with pass interferences. I mean, no team committed more. Just, that's 43 yards. Oh, that's 30. Remember the Colts game? We did the math. It was like 130 yards. I mean, it was a stupid amount of extra yards. In a game like today, where they are not going to move the ball, to give them 45 free, enormous chunks of yards, that's fucking killer. You can argue. I've said all along, you know me, I'm not a big ref guy. There was an offensive pass interference on Ayuk that was embarrassing, like a joke call. But that's part of football. Like I can make fun of the refs. I think they're relatively incompetent. I compare them to government officials. It's one of the only professions where you can be crappy at your job and keep
I think
your
government
job.
officials more incompetent, but
I agree.
More accountability on refs because we see what they're doing.
True, but it doesn't feel like they ever lose their gig.
Well, because I do think it's a very difficult job, but
the penalties were just outrageously terribly timed. I mean, that's just.
I blame the Niners much more than I blame the referees for their penalties.
Yes,
do you agree with
so
that?
if we throw the Greenlaw one
the
away,
third most penalized team in the league last year. Third.
Al-Shire's was a double whammy. At this point in time, we don't know if he got a concussion or not, but he definitely wobbled a little bit and got taken immediately by the couple trainers, right? Because at first I was like, I text you, I'm like, is he getting tossed out of the game? And then I realized, no, he's a little wobbly.
This isn't college.
So you don't get tossed out of the game in the NFL. I watched so much college football. I was like, yeah, that doesn't happen unless you get the 2, if you get 2 unsportsmanlike conduct.
Yeah.
But yeah, and there was a play. Was there a defensive holding play on Kinlaw in the game where he held on to 2 offensive linemen that they called?
Yep.
It's just
they had a variety.
they had the market cornered, and if you're going to have that many penalties, don't get me wrong, I think the Niners are good, but no team overcomes in a weather low scoring game the difference of 12-3 penalties, 11 more, or 9 more penalties, and 3 of them are 15-yarders,
right?
Because they weren't getting PIs. It's not like the Niners were committing their 2021 4 PI penalties.
Ball wasn't in the air that much on 50-50 balls.
True.
I'd
test that out, guys.
Wide ass open. Hard to PI on Pettis when there's no more than 30 yards of him. But I think it is a question for Shanahan. Is you guys were 3rd in penalties last year. Other teams that were high in penalties: McCarthy, hot seat; Vegas, Gruden gone and a replacement coach; Arizona, Buffalo. I mean, not all penalties are created equal, but they may lead. We'll see. They may lead the league in penalties after week 1 of the 2022 season, right?
I can't imagine there are going to be that many teams that get double digits week 1. Right? I'd say double digits week 1 is a pretty large amount of penalties.
Yeah. I don't have a list yet for everybody else, but
you have. You said,
and by the way, and one of the Bears' penalties was you're not allowed to dry the field with a mop penalty, which I'd never heard of.
I texted a coach who listens to this podcast, and he's actually a high school coach.
Good to have you.
High school coach. I said, listen, in fairness to Hightower, because he texted me the thing like, Hightower, I didn't know that rule. And he's like, it ain't your job to know that rule. It's his. And if you're going to play in Chicago, that's Hightower's not the most buttoned up guy. That's not Hightower's deal. He's got to be a great hang. I'm sure he's a fun guy to be around. When it comes to the details, the crossing your T's and dotting your I's, that's not really Hightower's cup of tea.
He's a field guy. I've never seen anyone.
He took the towel out there. They dried where they were going to plant, and they threw it to the side.
They dried where he was going to put the ball down. I compared it to when you used to get pizza and use the little napkins to get the grease up. It was the same, which I've never seen anyone do because it's just not. It's not you didn't spill 8 ounces of water. It's the earth has been it's raining. It's the mud. It's you got to go. How much can you possibly dry? And they even when they articulated the rule, they said drying the field during a dead. They made it was almost as if they had called a timeout, it would have been allowed. But you know what I mean? The way they articulated.
Were you thinking watching like what's that towel doing on the field?
No, because you see guys do that and throw the towel to the side on kicks. It's not uncommon. So a towel shouldn't be there though. It's like, what if there's a block and it shouldn't be sitting on the field?
Well, I'm sitting watching the game with my girlfriend Maria, and she's watching, and she goes, "Why is there a towel on? What is going on?" And I didn't really notice. And then they throw the flag, and obviously, and then I was a little confused, and then immediately that kicked them out of field goal range, right? And they ended up punting.
Punt. Yeah, and it was a 10-0 game. So at the time, I was like, "Woo!" Push, for us who had the Niners -7. So that was a big deal. By the way, I don't know, our guy Eric Brown at Clovis West, head football coach, 4-0. They beat Bullard this week. Donnie Arak's legend. Larry Brown, his brother at Kasner, 2-0. So the Browns are 6-0 right now, John. Shout out to the Browns.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Peyton the Valley Brown.
Okay, can I go with something positive?
Yep, go.
I'm going to call this guy, after 1 week, we got a long way to go, the Polynesian Ronnie Lott. He was dominant today.
Polylot.
Hufanga was a complete ass kicker. He had a pick that was awesome. He made tackle after tackle after tackle, and he was hitting people hard. Now, big picture, my only question on the guy, because talking to the Niner guys at training camp, they love him. I mean, we knew last year they loved him. They really like him. Like, he's not just a starter. Like, it's a no-brainer starter in the coaching staff and the front office's mind. He was a high-level guy at USC. He kicked everyone's ass. He's one of the bright spots on Clay Helton. Like, actually, when they were there, like, he was dominating. He's been awesome for the 49ers. The only thing we'll find out in time, once they play the Rams, Denver, these passing teams, how he plays in space. When he's around the line of scrimmage, he's a high-end NFL player. His impact wasn't, he dominated today. There were times when he was hitting people and you're like, because Fred sometimes you're like, is that Fred? No, it's Hufanga, just crushing people.
Yeah. It felt like
he is fearless.
To me, part of it was in this game with this weather, right? Jimmy Ward's out. It was
he could play near the line of scrimmage.
It was a leadership type game. Like, to me, my thought when I watched him was, if you told me he's a captain next year on the 49ers, one of the 12 and Lance is 13th, that wouldn't surprise me, right? That was my thought watching Hufanga. If you told me he's a captain on the Niners for like 4 years, that would not surprise me. Now, he's not like people in the chat like he's Polamalu. Well, he's not Polamalu.
Yeah.
This guy's a Hall of Famer. And there are questions, and I would imagine, Seattle doesn't have the quarterbacks to test him, but they do have the receivers to test Polamalu next week. So that's a separate issue. And Russell, he's going to have the talent. Like, they're going to play teams.
And the Rams are going to be throwing the ball.
Yeah, they're going to, it's Jimmy. It could get, but you just see on a basic level, he belongs. He gets the W. He doesn't have the C on his chest. He gets the WD, though, right? He gets the War Daddy sticker.
Yeah, he was a War Daddy today. I thought he was a badass. I really enjoy watching him play. I do. And to me, if he's just average in coverage, if he's going to be this great of a tackler, there was a play later in the game where the Bears busted this huge run and in space, I was like, is this guy going to take it to the house? And Hufanga tackled him in space where I thought God, Hufanga could flip and the guy's running full speed. It might've been a Herbert run. I forget, but he is a excellent tackler. An excellent tackler. And there is something to be said. Wouldn't you say you talk to these college coaches, NFL coaches, aren't as verbal about the coaching. College coaches are very they don't allow us to practice. How do you expect our guys to learn to tackle? We're in the NFL. It's like, they've already learned to tackle, but then they start complaining about it as the season goes on. Tackling's bad. He is on a high end of just an NFL tackler. The Niners have excellent tacklers, and he's near the top because their linebackers tackle well, sometimes a little recklessly and get penalties. I think the one thing that he does, him and Fred are much just natural tacklers. I'd say Greenlaw and Alshire are like, hey guys, you guys would have thrived in 06. You're a little close to the line, which I like. I like those type. It's a point of difference for the Niners, but it feels like Hufanga and Fred are consistently violent tacklers, but like not even getting close to penalties. Where those guys like, oh, is that a targeting?
Yeah, it feel Fred often tackles like, you always like to use the lion and the gazelle. It's a full body kind of swallow, right?
Yeah.
Arms wrap. And part of it is he is bigger than Greenlaw and Alshire. Those guys are small. Fred is big and long and tall, and he can use his whole body to wrap a guy up. For those guys, they're not as big, right? And so they need to be more of hitters.
And Hufanga to me is more of like a heat-seeking missile, like to their knees down, and just wipes them out. Just destroys them.
Yeah. On the chat, you can't say he's not Polamalu and then compare him to Ronnie Lott.
I did.
That's fair.
You see yesterday the Stanford USC game. Ronnie's there, obviously.
Really.
Jerry Rice there's on the sideline.
Yeah, I did see that.
Emmett Smith's in the stands with the people.
Yeah.
Like it's
Andrew
pretty good
Luck.
turnout.
Did you say Andrew Luck?
Andrew Luck. I mean,
Andrew
it's
Luck
pretty
was
good,
there.
solid, just guys roaming around the sidelines.
Yeah, Lynch probably wasn't there.
No.
All right, we're going through the good and the bad. I'll go with another good. I mean, the front seven as advertised, right? The Niners front seven, I thought they got hurt by the weather more than any other group on the field. In the end, how many sacks did they end up with? I thought they had. I thought the weather.
Bosa had one. The Ebicam, Kinlaw kind of combined had one. They missed about 5. They were all over.
Those were the two. And to me, now part of it was Fields, so you can't assume Fields is going to get tackled on turf or in a dome. But to me, that defense looked like a 4.5 sack kind of defensive line today. Kinlaw got hurt and then wasn't, so that's part of. We'll wrap that into a positive there.
I mean, your first reaction when you see him kind of grabbing at the lower leg, you're like, "Oh my god!"
Well, my first reaction was, okay, he's not grabbing his knee. That was my first reaction. It was like he's not grabbing his knee. So I actually felt a little good about that. And the other thing, I feel like it's harder in wet situations. Now we'll find out with Mitchell what that injury is. The one that scared me, there was a run to the left. I think it was the play that Greenlaw got the face mask on. Bosa's knee ends up, I tweeted the video, completely underneath him, and he gets bent all the way back. And I thought of the Barrows article about how flexible Nick is, and it might have saved him on that play.
A lot of fish, bro.
A lot of grouper and ceviche. Yeah. But is
he allowed to eat tortilla chips with a ceviche, or
no,
you just you just use a? Yeah, I remember Tebow used to eat guacamole just with a fork. Just to get his protein.
Not as much fun.
No.
Put salt on the fork, it's not the same. But I thought their defensive line was really good.
I would say a negative. Elijah Mitchell's a really good player. Like, it's pretty clear the first half of the game when Elijah Mitchell was running the ball, he is not just their best running back. Like, he's a legit talent guy. Like, he's a good player. He had 6 carries for 41 yards, averaging almost 7 yards a carry. And you just watch him, like, to me, he pops. The eye test is just like, boom. And then he disappears. And all of a sudden, you see from the people there, I'm sure they announced it over the overhead, like, Elijah Mitchell is out. Here's what I know. Whenever you tell me, hey, questionable, probable to come back mid-game, you still never know. Like, guys have torn ACLs and broken feet and shit and been probable or questionable to come back. When you say out, that's usually like, hey, we might have a problem here. You're not going back in the game. And you're putting this up on Twitter right now. You want to read it?
You see it? You can read it.
Saw this Jennifer Lee Chan. Saw 49ers running back Elijah Mitchell leaving the locker room with a substantial brace on his right leg. He was not bending it, and he was slowly making his way to the bus, but he was not on crutches. Either way, it's just not good. I mean, he's a young player who has now played, this is his second year, and he's been hurt a lot.
Yeah.
But to me, he's clearly their best running back. And this is my negative. Maybe we need to see our guy, Buck Mason, and Ty Davis-Price. Obviously, Trey Sermon is long gone at this point now.
Which factors in now, right? You used a 3rd-round pick on the guy last year. He's gone.
But here's where I don't necessarily have as much issue with that, is just the simple fact that he wasn't good enough. So to me,
Mitchell was a 5th-rounder, and okay.
Yeah, but like, you can find, if he's not good enough in your scheme, you can find other running backs. So just upgrade. But I maybe it was the footing. Maybe he's had a knee injury before, so he's hesitant. I thought Jeff Wilson looked very slow out there. Like, part of Elijah Mitchell, he's like, makes one cut and he's gone. Wilson was kind of feeling his way. Ty Davis Price, a physical running back. We're gonna have to see that guy. We're gonna have to see Mason. They might have to claim a guy. Like, to me, I kind of questioned. All of a sudden, Hasty got claimed. He's gone. I think the Jags claimed him. Like all of a sudden, if this guy, hell, let's say he misses, let's say be Bush, say he only misses 6-7 games or whatever. That's still a problem. I don't feel I don't feel nearly as good. And you'd be like, well, Shanahan's, they run through running backs. They always find guys. Well, there was a drop off on this team, clearly, right? We're watching, unless Mason and Ty Davis Price are really good. And they just might not have a choice. The one thing with the Shanahans is they'll just force feed guys and they'll find out, right? He will give guys carries.
Yeah.
But I think
Mostert 5 carries for 16 yards in Miami today.
I want to see Price or Mason, but I think those guys are going to have to get some carries moving forward. At minimum, this guy's missing time, right? Best case scenario.
Yeah, I mean, look, Jeff Wilson has always had guys ahead of him on the 49ers depth chart, right? Like, he's gotten hurt before, but for the most part, he's been there as a safety valve, not as the guy that has to take over for the number one guy for any extended period of time. If you need him for a game, you can go get him 3 times. Like he did it. Remember, was it 2 years ago?
Feels like this is the first time he's really been the true backup running back too. Feels like he's been closer to the 3 than the 2.
Well, I mean,
this team
9 games last year, 4 starts last year, sneaky, whatever that's worth to you. 12 games the year before, 10 games the year before, 6 games the year before, right?
What's crazy, though, in the Niners, or just with Shanahan guys in general, you're the second running back. You are you all of a sudden you can start 9 games pretty quick, right?
Yeah.
Happened to Elijah Mitchell. He wasn't the starter going into the season, and pretty immediately it was like, oh, this guy's our best running back, and they're just going to ride him. That's where I do think that Price or Mason, are going to have the opportunity very fast to, like, if they get some carries and start, like, he'll just keep giving whoever his best running back is the ball. He is not, to me, he's much more stubborn with the passing game than he is with the running backs. Like, he will just run the horse. And Elijah Mitchell is his horse, in theory. I mean, he gets hurt a lot now, which sucks.